Welcome, everybody, to Kyloe Unmuted. I am your host, Rob Mann. With me, I have my indirect boss, CEO and founder of Kyloe. Raymond, how you doing?
I'm very, very well, mate. Very well.
Today, we're going to sit down and talk about how to set up Bullhorn if you're doing healthcare staffing, locums, travel nursing, per diem, and any version of that, allied. Permanent's pretty straightforward, unless you're collecting credentials. So this is mostly for the folks who have to collect stuff and then put people to work and pay them from the staffing company. So with that said, we'll do a quick intro to myself and Raymond, why we're doing this, and then we'll get into 5 tips, tricks, how to set up Bullhorn for success for healthcare. So Raymond, would you like to say hello first?
Yeah, sure. Raymond Penny, for those of you who haven't met me, I'm talking very slowly today so that I don't go too Scottish. We founded Kyloe back in 2015. We're now really happy to be in most countries around the world doing things with Bullhorn and with Bullhorn customers with our products and services. We've been really lucky to work with some great healthcare staffing businesses and look forward to sharing some of the things we've learned along the way.
Thank you, Raymond. My name is Rob Mann. I am the regional sales manager for products out here in the Americas for Kyloe. I used Bullhorn for healthcare staffing, doing locum tenens from 2013 to 2018, and had some custom bits, had some out-of-the-box bits, but overall it's really successful, and most things happened in Bullhorn. So I have a little bit of firsthand knowledge of how to set this up pretty well. So to jump in, why we're doing it, one of our customers said to me on a call, hey, it'd be really nice to have a guide to help us as we're going through implementation, get some best practices, tips, and tricks of how other people have been successful. In my brain, that means I need to go talk to everyone who uses Bullhorn for healthcare to try and gather information. So if we miss something that you think is really valuable, please message me on LinkedIn or email me at rob.mann, 2 N's, at kyloepartners.com, and tell me anything that I missed. We're going to put all this together, probably create like a quick handy worksheet and deliver it. With that said, I want to thank the contributors who obliged me when I asked them to interview them on how they were setting up Bullhorn for success. And those are the guys the team over at Atlas Med Staff, the team at LRS Healthcare, Floyd Lee Locums. And then we have a lot of experience setting up Bullhorn for healthcare at Kyloe, which is why Raymond's on. And also Bullhorn's new vice president of healthcare, who is Jason Nyad, who comes from a background of using Bullhorn for healthcare staffing. So to get started, Raymond and I were talking about this for a couple of weeks. And Raymond, do you want to share kind of what we thought was like the most clear-cut way to create an overarching theme for how to do this well?
Absolutely. Yeah, the things that we see with the people that we work with, there are a couple of principles that are important in order to make it successful. And those are speed and accuracy. If you need to be quick to get to your professionals, you need to be sure that everything that you've got in your system is accurate. You need to know the latest things. If you've got that speed and accuracy in your ability to go find people and deliver back to the facilities that want them, then you're going to be really successful. And that's an underlying thing that we see upon the customers that we've got that are really successful. And it drives the other things that we're going to speak about today. With those principles, if you can be quick and your data is accurate, everything we're going to speak about today is going to be great. And you're either doing it already or it's easy to switch on.
Yeah. So before we jumped on live, Raymond explained to me that Raymond's an accountant by trade. He said the Scottish.
I don't look like it. I realize I don't look like one. Obviously, I look like something much more exciting than that.
You have a nice jumper on and a button down.
Yeah.
By the way, I use the jumper instead of sweater. So he said the Scottish book of accounting principles is about this thick, whereas the US one is 2.5 feet thick.
Yeah.
So principles over just spelling everything out in this case. All right, let's jump in. So I think I'm doing odds. You're doing evens, right?
You are.
So the odds. So starting with number 5 here, and this is definitely a principle, is don't think you need to set the system up perfect from day one, because you do have the opportunity to update it as you learn. It is a product, right? And then also, please, and this is more of like a begging people, don't try and create your old system and your old way of doing things when you implement Bullhorn or any new technology. The people who create those technologies talk to a lot of people just like you, just like I did for this list. And that's why they create products the way that they do. So just a good practice is to try and figure out and talk to them about why they set it up the way they did. And use it as close to that as humanly possible, but also understand that you're not stuck because it can be a living and breathing tool that you can adapt. Raymond, you have definitely some opinions on this one, so jump in.
Absolutely. Ahead of someone deciding to move to Bullhorn, we'll do what we call a scoping exercise. Part of that scoping exercise will be asking about what they're trying to achieve, also speaking about Bullhorn best practice, about the flow that Bullhorn's created within the products, and trying to highlight the reason they're buying it as from what they've seen, and trying to drill into the areas that people see as maybe their secret sauce, or the things that they've done in a particular way, maybe for always, but they don't remember why. There's a great story about a friend of mine who, at Christmas, what they used to do at Christmas was they made a particular Christmas pudding. They did it in a particular way. They would make it and they would chop the ends off it. So they would chop the ends off the Christmas pudding. And that was a tradition that they always did. Nobody understood why they cut the ends off the Christmas pudding. So they went back to their granny, who's like 96, said, "Hey, why is it when we make our Christmas pudding that we chop the edges off it?" She said, "That's because when I was younger, I had a really small tin and I had to make it fit in." So some of these things, the reason that you're doing things in your existing systems might be as a workaround for something that you no longer have, and Bullhorn's got best practice for it. So please don't try and recreate stuff. If you can, make sure the information's there that you need, but don't go recreating something that you've had for 20 years and is the reason you're moving.
That makes sense, and it's really funny, by the way. I thought like it fell on the floor, so they cut the end off that fell, which would also have been the bad reason to keep doing it forever. So number 5, guys, it's a living, breathing thing, and don't try and recreate anything that you did in the past. Try and understand the new system, because that's why you're buying it. There's definitely a good reason why you're moving, right? Okay, number 4, Raymond, this one's all you.
Yeah. Please, 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 please store everything that you've got in Bullhorn. Don't have files somewhere else. Don't have files in local drives. Don't be trying to use SharePoint. There's so much that you have there already in Bullhorn that's specially set up, and particularly if we look at credentials. I think the credentials is that a place that's been built out with specifics in mind in order to gather the information so that you can make sure that your professional is ready to go on site, and they have the expiry dates, they have the types, they can be used to weave together into either a great profile or a great submittal packet. It makes it hard when they're in loads of different places. We had a great conversation with someone who was thinking about their skills checklists, and they were looking at their skills checklists and saying, "Hey, we'd really like to put our skills checklists and merge it in to create a great profile and a submittal packet to put forward." I said, "Fantastic. Where are they?" "Oh, we've got one page here, one page there. This one's in Word, this one's in PDF, and that one's kept in the local drive that we get back as an attachment to an email." That's tricky. That's really tricky. Please put everything in the right place. There are places. Now, it's a bit of a job to get it on there. And appreciate you're going to have to invest some time to move them either from folders or from the Files tab. But you only have to do it once. And once it's there, you can do amazing things with them.
Yeah, so I think just a kind of quick background on this. Bullhorn has a Files tab now, which some people might have called Credentials. Mm-hmm. And then there's a separate thing called Credentials now, which operates kind of like its own entity, because you can see it in the list view, like you can see candidates or contacts, replacements, etc. They call it a system of record for a reason. And if you want to take advantage of things like automation, which is going to be coming up later, it helps with everything. So number 4, store your files, store your credentials, skills checklists, licenses.
And put them in the right type. Categorize them in the right way, because then you know whether it's an old license or a new license because of the expiry date. You know when you received it, you know when it was added, all the information you can now do something with.
And you can filter to find them easier. So, all right. So number 4, store your things in Bullhorn. That way we can use them to do cool things. Number 3, statuses. So this has a couple of themes. Number 1, you have to train your team on what the statuses mean. So when I was doing healthcare staffing, we actually had the candidate status, which was like active, placed, passive, DNU, like archived. And then we also have the credentialing status, which is a custom bit that we had. We actually had automation rules that changed it and removed our ownership. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do if you have. We like this idea of two statuses, right? So we had active credentialed because locums you cover their med mal. So you do the same. We had inactive credentialed, which means they weren't working, but they still had a credentialed. So those, by the way, if you're a recruiter listening to this, and there is a way to see who is currently ready to go to work, but all you have to do is place them, and they're not owned by anybody else in your business, go find them and call them because they're really close to the dollar. And then we had a holding one where we saw that they were in process, but they weren't ready to go to work yet. But they were like, almost there. So,
or maybe something expired.
Yeah, or the credential expired, and you can actually change that status using an automation tool or a data magic tool. Which, by the way, kind of goes into this idea of guardrails, right? And using data automation to create guardrails in your system, which is all doable now using no-code tools that are available. And there's also ways to do ownership. So if I got an app, which was like the first conversation, and got the CV for a doctor, I had a month of ownership. If I didn't have a note of email, outbound call, inbound call in the notes for that candidate or doctor, then after 30 days, the automation engine would turn off, would say, "Hey, Rob," they would sometimes now it warns you, but it didn't used to warn us. We would just lose ownership. So
put them into the pool, back into the pool.
Yeah. So what I used to do was I had I always every 15th and 30th of the month, I just made sure that I went in and talked to everybody. Yeah. And that's also a great thing. Raymond, what's my favorite part of Bullhorn that you can do?
I think it's got to be the list.
So I had a saved list of all the candidates that I own. So on the 15th and 30th, I could call them. So train your team on the statuses, know what they mean so that they can filter on them and they can use them. If you can, create automation around them to help drive calling like I had to, or making sure there's guardrails to know who's ready to go to work, who's not ready to go to work based on valid credentials or expired credentials. That is just a really, really good best practice. And it starts with statuses. It can apply to note types, like your team needs to know what the note types mean. Like in my case, email, outbound, and inbound were super important. So Raymond, anything you want to add? I kind of beat that one up.
No, I think favorites is very underrated. I think list views that are set for you by either centrally or your own favorite ones is something that you can't really underrate. And it's the reason that people used to use Excel and now they don't. Because they've got a list, they can filter it, they can do it themselves, they can save it, and it's there every time they log in. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and Bullhorn's great because it gives you two ways to do lists, right? It gives you three ways. You have distribution lists, you have tear sheets or hot lists, whichever you call them, and then you have saved list views, which can work just like an Excel report, but it all lives in Bullhorn, so you don't have to leave the system of record. So I think that's one of the reasons why Bullhorn stands out to me. It's really easy to use for a CRM perspective. All right. Yeah. I can't believe I gave you number 2. But
yeah, I was like, I'll maybe use the customization word and then I'll move into the A word. But there's probably a few things here that you can do. If you're not already considering using VMS and using the Bullhorn VMS in order to get your get the roles coming in and allocating them out within your Bullhorn straight away, then you should. If you manage to get that, then that allows for jobs to really quickly find their way into your Bullhorn. And as if by magic, if you get the allocation rules worked out. The allocation rules is if it's this type in this location, make sure that it gets allocated out to Rob, and Rob will pick it up and deal with it really quickly. That then enables, off the back of, you can start to use those ownership rules and candidate statuses, again, across candidates and contacts to determine who the jobs and who the roles should go to. And then once you have those in place, you can start to engage with your professionals in a way that makes you care, but also in an automated engagement scenario where you are just checking in. Hey, I know you started on Tuesday. It looked like it was a tough shift because you did the all night. Are you okay? By the way, I know you're working for someone else. Can I just check in that you're okay? Remember about us. And you start having those engagement things to be done in the background that helps you stay connected, which is the things that's really pretty difficult to keep doing when you've got a busy desk that you're running. And that probably also leads on to the accuracy that we spoke about at the beginning. If you have the right information in the right fields, the automations look really good. If you've not managed to keep your data up to date, if you've ended up in a scenario that you forgot to do an update, or you learn they've got a new license, or actually they've moved up a license, then you're communicating them in the wrong way. And computers are really, really good at remembering things. They're really rubbish at remembering things that's in your head that's not in the database. So please use them to help update information, keep your information accurate, and then that automation and the automation of engagement just sort of works. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I know your license expired. Can you give me the new one? That would be super. Collect the documents, update the credential, and they remain ready to go.
Yep. So I don't need to add too much. I talk about automation all the time. But I think to the point of keep your data up to date, use your automation where you can. You can automate documents being created or documents being collected. You can automate jobs coming in. You can automate the engagement going out. You can change statuses. You can change ownership. There's so many ways to make your team have to do less and be more efficient and effective and organized. And Bullhorn allows for all of them. So
Yeah,
so
there was
it's
an
really,
SIA survey came out. I think it was maybe for the UK, may have been for EMEA, and they asked two questions. How each, and this was to recruitment consultants. They said, "Hey, how important is technology for you?" And 87% of them came back said, "Technology is critically important to my role." And then said, a supplementary question, "And do you feel adequately trained, or do you understand how it works?"
I
To
think the
which
answer was
case
no.
only 63% of them said they felt they understood it, and 57% of people said that they were adequately trained. So there's a gap of almost 30% in between people's expectations and what people felt they were able to do. So maybe there's another principle there. Continue to train your teams on what they could and should do without it being a sort of a horrible way, but just in an informational kind of way. Don't forget, remember this. Here you go. So it's probably just an aside. I remembered about the difference between knowing it's important and knowing how to do it.
Yeah, and I think there was someone just posted on LinkedIn earlier today that I thought was really relevant. Is you can test your marketing on your internal teams. So
Yeah,
if you create like a bunch of principles on how you want to communicate in TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, you can do that to send internal marketing emails about how to use your tools, but use those principles. Is a good way. So definitely internal marketing is underutilized, underrated, and once used can be really effective. All right, number one. So this was mentioned a few times, guys. This is why it ended up as number one. Is on your records, you can create custom cards in Bullhorn in the Novo experience. And we talked to, like I said, 4 or 5 different agencies, besides for the experience I have myself. And everyone that I talked to had some kind of custom card on their dashboard. The travel nursing groups had, hey, a list of, hey, do we have everything we need for a submission or a profile packet? The locums groups had, hey, do we have everything that we need to put this person to work, as a bare minimum, which would be like the license, the medical training, the residency, the board cert, fellowship, etc. One of the groups had their custom cards and custom fields maxed out because they tracked everything in the candidate view on the front page on the overview. And another one had all the profile things and said, hey, have we worked with this person before? Are they ready to go to work? True or false? So custom cards, custom fields, massive differentiator for your team to be able to quickly take a glance at a provider and know if they're ready to go to work.
When's the last time? Maybe it's a good question. I don't know if anybody can answer in the chat. When's the last time you reviewed the order your fields appeared on screen? When was the last time you asked? Because you get them set up, they get set up, you know where to look, but are the right things in the right place to make them easy to see?
When's the last time we did it?
Maybe not often enough, but I appreciate it. As I said it, you were going to feed that back, so I needed to. I'll reflect on it. Thank you very much, boss.
It was more of a, hey, we should probably eat our own cake moment.
I moved a couple of fields around LA, nobody's going to be able to find them, so that's going to be bad.
That's playing a game on us, guys. Anyway, well, if you do ask that question, or if you don't know what that means, feel free to reach out to us. So, all right, let's just go through the top 5 again. So number 5, don't think your system has to be set up perfectly to start. and try not to make your old processes and ways match your new technology. Let your new technology show you what it can do first, and then be a product owner, ask questions to your user base, adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Please make sure all your all your files, they're all in Bullhorn. Let's not get things getting lost in the wrong place. If you're out the office, nobody can find it. Get them all in there, then you can start to use them in a much better way.
Yep. All right. Number 3, use your statuses and node types. Train your teams what they mean, and make sure that you continue to train them, because they can be really powerful, especially for things that happen in number 2.
Yeah. Customizations and automations, whether that's coming from VMS, whether that's using them for engagement, whether it's just making sure that you update ownership rules or you collect documents in a streamlined way. There's so much you can do when the data is accurate that takes away the sort of important but dull stuff.
Yep. And then number 1, custom cards and list views, making sure that the relevant information is up front. Ask your team what's relevant, what fields they use, and to Raymond's point, go through an audit and make sure that you look at things like what fields are showing, where they're showing, but also go through your application process. Also, go through your submission process, how you submit somebody if it's not a VMS, and make sure that there's less friction. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Raymond and I managed to keep this under 25 minutes. Our goal was under 20.
Yep.
We're still feeling good. Raymond, thank you. And then again, thank you guys to everyone who submitted information. And feel free to send over any tips and tricks that we missed. So thank you to Atlas, LRS, Floyd Lee. They didn't know they participated, but they always do when I'm around. Mint Physicians, and Bullhorn, of course, itself. So thank you guys. Thanks, Raymond.
Good stuff. Yeah, have a good day. Bye.